Let's play the Caro Kann defense. d4, taking the center with white. We strike back with a d5. Takes, takes. This is the so-called exchange variation of the Caro Kann defense. We will get a Carlsbad structure. This is just normal development, knight to c6, and the bishop is pinning the knight. Develop the other knight to f6. And now after knight f3 we can pin his knight. If h3, we don't mind taking the knight and giving up the bishop pair because we have a nice pawn structure in the center. All of our pawns will stay on the white squares, so we have good control over the light squares. That's why e6. And the next moves are pretty straightforward. White is going to castle next, after bishop to g5, bishop to e7. We want to make sure that the knight is protected twice, with pieces and not only pawn, because if bishop takes, queen takes, pawn takes, we have a damaged pawn structure. Now we can castle, or even better, rook to c8, because if bishop takes, we can take back with the rook, dominating the c-file. Okay, but now, finally, castles. White is developing his other rook. The opening phase has just finished. Now we need a plan. How to make progress here. I'll go with the so-called minority attack. We have 3 versus 4 pawns on the queen side. We want to push our pawns to create weaknesses on the queen side. And those weaknesses we are going to attack later. Harass the bishop. Bishop has to go back to b3. And now another nice move, knight to a5. We open the c-file and attack his bishop. a3. I think he wants to save his bishop, but he has no time to. After takes, takes, he has a weak double pawn on the b-file, and we have an even stronger open file for the rook. We keep going forward with our minority attack and support it with our queen. Now b4. White is trying to stop our attack, but we just abuse the open c-file. Rook to c4. We want to double up our rooks on the c-file and make the attack even stronger. Bishop back to e3, covering the pawn, because it was attacked twice. But we don't care, we just play rook to c8 and have doubled rooks. This move, I'm not sure what it's doing. And now the d4 pawn is attacked twice and only protected once. So we definitely should take with the rook. This was a little mistake. Bishop h4. Now taking the pawn would be even stronger because the rook would also attack the bishop on h4. But I kept going with the attack on the queen side. a5. Pawn takes, queen takes. Now they decide to take the knight with the bishop. I don't think that's a good move because this just activates our bishop. Now we have even more pressure on the d4 pawn. Knight to e2, protecting the d4 pawn. Remember, rule of thumb, if they have an isolated pawn, we want to trade as many pieces as possible so that white has no pieces left to protect this weak pawn. This also depends on how far the kings are away from the weak pawn. Imagine all the heavy pieces and minor pieces are not on the board. Still, they somehow manage to protect the pawn. And here it's not that easy for me to make progress actually. My idea is to create even more isolated pawns and weaknesses on the queen side and to get rid of our weak pawn on b4. If they push the a-pawn, we could play b3 ourselves. White has to take, we take back with the queen. And now we have two targets, the b2 pawn and the d4 pawn as well. White has troubles to defend both of the weaknesses. We just have to infiltrate with our heavy pieces. Rook to d2 comes into my mind. Let's play this move. Rook to b1, covering the weak pawn. And here I should play rook to d2, skewer the queen and winning the d4 pawn. Yeah, I missed that move. Shame on me. Still, black is controlling the game so far. White has two weak pawns, we control the c-file, and this should be a mistake. As I mentioned, we control the c-file, so takes takes, and now we should win the d4 pawn. Finally. If rook takes, then rook takes and bishop takes d4, and if knight takes, we just take the d4 pawn with our now strong bishop. White's structure is falling apart. We have to coordinate our pieces and also win the b3 pawn, and our connected 5 pawns on the king side should win the game. We have to be careful for any tactics, and with our time management, it's only 3 minutes left. Not that easy for me though. The bishop is attacked twice, so we should move the bishop back. I think f6 is a nice square, protected by the g7 pawn, so that white actually has no tactics to win material with a fork, for example. Queen a6 attacks the rook, be careful, don't blunder the pieces. Now we infiltrate. Rook to c2. Heavy pieces always love to be on the 2nd or 7th rank. This check also not really dangerous. King to h7. We have a weak pawn on f7, but the king can protect the pawn anytime. Knight to g3. Now it's time to double up the heavy pieces on the 2nd rank. Queen to d2. White has to defend the f2 pawn, otherwise they will get checkmated very soon. So that's why they play rook to f1, protect the f2 pawn. And we keep pressuring the f2 pawn, now with our dark squared bishop. Bishop to d4. The f2 pawn now attacked 3 times. White has to find knight to h1. A very passive move, but still somehow holding everything together. Now we can either go for the b3 pawn, or we try to attack the white king. Both plans should be fine. Bishop to e5 covers the escape square for the king. We want to find a mating net. And this move, yeah, I could leave the pawn, but safety first. Protect the pawn with the king. Russian old school chess. Slow progress, move by move. I love that kind of chess. No serious checks from the queen coming. So rook to c1. If he takes, it's queen takes c1 checkmate. And if he doesn't, well, let's see. Rook takes f1. The king has to take the rook because we cover the escape square. And now queen to d1, checkmate. If you liked this gameplay, please subscribe to our channel and see you next time.